Right, we are on now. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Please let me know if you can hear us. If you can hear us, please just put out one, just type one. If you can't, just type two. Good evening, Pastor K. How are you doing? Good evening. Who is that? Karim. Nairobi. How are you doing? Good evening, Karim. Please, if you can hear us, type one. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Karim, good evening. Pastor K, good evening. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone.
How are you doing? Biodun. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Adeolu, good evening. Good evening. Thank you so much. It's 8 o'clock. Yeah. We are also on Facebook. Toby, thank you for joining on Facebook. Toby is joining from Ekiti State. Thank you. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. So the truth is that we would have loved to use two different devices, but we know some people are watching on Facebook and some people are watching on Instagram. So to make it easy for everybody, we try and sit together so that we can use both devices. So if you can just help us also share with people so they can join us as we go into our session this evening. I've been accused of not being able to read the comments, so I'm trying my best to to read this evening. All right, so while we get ready, this evening we are talking about the dynamics of
Discipline.
The dynamics of discipline. The dynamics of discipline, and it's interesting because people have all sorts of ideas when it comes to discipline, but we would discuss it from both angles this evening, from my side as a father and as a parent, and Mulai will also discuss it from her side as a child,
A youth.
as a youth, a Gen Z, and we see how that works. So generally speaking, when we talk about discipline, the first impression that comes to mind is that discipline means beating. It means beating, and discipline could involve beating and some form of discomfort, but believe me, it's way beyond that. And while we're discussing this today, one of the feedbacks, or one of the many feedbacks we've gotten from our conversation, not just now, incidentally, if you go on Facebook, you find out that myself and Mulai have been doing this since about
COVID.
Yeah, 2020 during COVID. So one of the things, if you are this free together, what's the line of discipline? Thank you so much. Those joining on Facebook, Taju, the Ballet, good evening, sir. How are you doing? Thank you for joining. So the idea is that, if you are this, if you have this kind of relationship, how do you guarantee discipline? So and it's important we consider this. So like I said, discipline is beyond beating. It's when we think discipline is beating, then we miss it. Discipline actually means controlled behavior to achieve something. It means you bring the behavior under control to achieve a certain objective, and sometimes the control could be unpleasant. So usually, I remember many years ago when I was on my industrial placements. I remember when I went to meet the head of HR or something. One of the things he asked me was, "What is your discipline?" I'm like, "What's discipline?" He said, "What did you study?" So what he meant was that the training you are having in school, in what direction is it? So discipline is like that. You know, they call people disciples. It means they are following a certain path to become something. So the first thing I want us to understand is that when we talk about discipline, we are not talking about beating up. We are not talking about that. Sometimes it could involve that, but it's way beyond that. It talks about discipline actually means how do we control this behavior so that we get the right outcome. So for us as parents, I think it's important that, you know, to bring discipline into your home, to bring discipline into your kid, it actually starts from you. It actually starts from you, because you are supposed to be the example. You are supposed to be, if I can use the word discipler, you're supposed to be the person guiding this person. You're supposed to be the person leading this person. So if you are trying to discipline them to do what you're not doing, it becomes weak. Like I think I said this the first time we had this conversation. I read this book by Dr. Kionuzo, fantastic man. He's a doctor, medical doctor, and he wrote this book. I think it's in one of his books. Either You May Kiss the Bride or something. I read the book in the mid 90s or so, and he said in that book, I never forgot. He said, "The things you do speak so loud, I cannot hear the things you say." And what he taught me was the compromise we bring into our life when we say things and we don't do it. So when you are a parent or you are leading a space and all you do is say things and say things and say things, and you don't do the things you say, you don't keep up to it, you don't live up to it, then you weaken your ability or your right to bring about discipline, especially in the home space. Now the challenge with the home space is this. Is the home, so Mola, you see me now wearing shirt and all that. She busted into my study yesterday. She can just come in. So she see me in knicker, she see me in my singlet, she see me in this, you know. So it's not like an office where you wear shirt and tie and you are looking together. It's the informal space. And sometimes within the informal space, so I cannot use so many things to threaten her, you know, because it's that, you know. So, but the greatest strength you have to bring about discipline within the home space is your example. That's the first thing. You must live the example. You must uphold it. You must declare it, and you must enforce it. The enforcing side sometimes is where the trouble is. Why? Because all of us at some point or the other in our life, we get naughty, and it's part of life. We get naughty. So Mola, do you want to say something
About what this
what we are saying? Talk about it.
I personally think you're right. And then another thing, I think you can only discipline if people respect you. And I can only respect you if you respect me. I want to tell my dad, he respects me a lot.
Yes,
Don't you respect me? Instead of shouting at me, I'm a logical human being. He reasons with me. He will speak to me and explain to me instead of lashing out at me. And I really appreciate that. So it makes it really easy for me to listen to him and do what he says. Because if you shout at me, I'm just going to shut down and not listen to you, because that's just who I am. I don't like people shouting at me, because you can simply explain what is going on, why I need this done, and I'll get it done. So my dad does that a lot, so I find it very easy not to clash with him, and I think that's why. Like, I can count how many times my dad has beaten me this life, like 4 times or 3 times. It was, I can't count one finger. It's not that
I need to increase
serious.
it. I need to increase the beats. you know, have you finished?
Yeah, I think that's what I...
Okay, so the beating thing. Let's talk about the beating thing later. Let's leave the beating thing alone. You know, so like I said, the starting point with this discipline thing is yourself. You need to bring yourself under this control and help your child, your ward. And you know, for me, it applies everywhere, whether it's in the office space or the home space. Help them see that what you are doing is first of all for their benefit. The moment they think it's for your benefit, guess what? They will begin to think they can hold back on you with that thing. You know, so many years ago, when Mola was in school, junior school, when the result comes out, you don't look up to see her grades. You look down. You just look down. So you look up. Oh, where's Mola Adekunle? Then you now look down and see Mola Adekunle. Wow, see Mola Adekunle down there. You know, Mola, what's going on? You know, it wasn't funny. It wasn't funny. You know, the first few years of secondary school.
Not the first 3 years.
You know, it was catastrophic. You know, and at the point, you know, so the first thing you want to talk about it, and she just couldn't be bothered after a point.
No, I was bothered. I was remorseful for like the first few 5 hours.
You've been remorseful between the time you're driving from school to home. You know, Mulai will just be remorseful. You know, I don't know. By the time she just couldn't be bothered again. The lesson teacher, Mulai will be with the lesson teacher. The lesson teacher was getting frustrated with Mulai because either Mulai is eating during the lesson or she's running around to watch something on DS. She just was that.
That was Ade.
It was. So it was.
It was Ade.
Mulai just, you know. You're right. Should we call witnesses? You know, and so we needed to discuss it, and I remember one of the things we needed to do. So there were two sides to it. Number one, at the point she began to feel bad about it. She began to feel bad. So the shouting, the making her feel, oh, are you not smart? Why? It wasn't at this point. It wasn't going to work. So the first thing is that you wanted to assure her that that you are banging in class does not mean that you are stupid. That you are much more than this and all that and all that. And you know, to talk about the fact that you are seeing my daughter whether you pass or not. And I remember one of the things I told her is this: Mulai, say, these results carry your name. It will never carry my name. It's your name. So if you do well at it, it's you, and whatever it. And you know, incidentally, the same Mulai that was dropping down in class. Now good evening everybody. Sorry, thank you. Good evening. Thank you everybody on Facebook too. Thank you. Good evening. Mulai that was not doing well in class. By the time she got to secondary school, okay, we changed her secondary school. We changed that to a boarding house. Mulai was outstanding. I think you got the second best result in yeah, she's feeling happy. Maybe in WAEC in the whole school she got the second best result, about 7, 8 distinctions and all that. Mulai was doing further maths. Mulai that they said could not do science was doing further maths, was representing the school in competition and all that. But the discipline was this: you are doing this is taken away, because you need to understand that there are consequences for wrong behavior. There are even God, when Adam and Eve misbehaved, sent them out of the garden. There must be consequences for wrong behavior. And like he said, and I believe it, you that you are meting out the consequence, you that you are enforcing it, you can't be guilty yourself. So the first thing I remember, at the point I showed Mulai my secondary school, what's it called? Result, my WAEC result in secondary school, to help her understand that I got some A's too, but you can do it. I didn't get all the A's. I think I got about 3, 4 A's. So our WAEC is even better than mine. But you see, you can do this thing. You can do this thing, and until you do this, this is taken away. And I remember one of the things I told her, and I told her sister, is this: if you do what you're supposed to do when you're in school, I promise you, when you're on holidays, I will not put the demands of academics on you. So and that way, the idea is to ensure that discipline is not seen as punishment. It's not seen as, making them feel bad. So it's important we do that with these kids. Yeah, now talk about your other experiences.
What I share is in relation to what?
Discipline.
Like, what kind
should I give another one? Because, okay, good. So in our house, it's different for different people. You don't get a device, phone and all that until age 14.
You are 14. Imagine growing up with
until
all your
14.
Friends having a phone and you don't have a phone. Wow.
All your friends can have phones. I don't live in your friend's house. I don't do whatever, with those your parents, and I don't fight with all that. So one of the things we did was that when she was going to get a phone, because I don't want to shout and I don't want to fight, I said, you know what? We actually wrote down a contract. Written, I'm sure if I check one of these books, a written contract. I wrote it, I wrote my name, wrote our name, and we both signed it. That if you break these things, your phone will be seized. And the time she broke it, it was seized. When she behaved herself, she got it. Now that she's much older and she's shown more responsible behavior to her phone, she has it. So I think we must get to that point where we explain these things and all that. Now, as close as we think Mulai and I are, as she can be free with me, she can hit me, can talk and all that. Mulai knows that if the lines are drawn,
why did you not change your voice?
the Yoruba people will say that interpretation that the teeth that the lion uses to play with the children is also the teeth that uses to bite them, So I can play, I can joke, we can do all that, but they know that the moment those lines are crossed, then the other side. So she knows that if they are doing something, I tell them to stop. If I count up to what?
5.
5 standard. If you ask Adioluwa to, if I count up to 5 and the change is not made, they know that there'll be consequences. There'll be consequences. So we must establish these things, and we must establish it very, 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 very early. Right?
So, talking about discipline, if it's in relation to me and you're just in my general life. So, one thing now, I'm going to talk about discipline in my general life when it comes to like academics. So, personally, when I'm in school, my school is in Ogun State and my parents are not with me. But the kind of person I am, because of the values my parents have instilled in me, I know how to behave and respect myself in a public setting. When adults speak to me in a certain kind of way, because my parents are, I don't want to say they are very liberal, but they are kind of liberal. So when I'm interacting with adults, they can kind of interpret what I'm saying, and they can turn it into a whole ordeal and everything, and I can be quite rude when I need to. But because of the discipline my father has put in me, I know when to keep my mouth shut and respect myself. In my academics, I know when it's time to play and when it's time to face my books. I personally hate failing. From my track record of failure, I hate failing. So when it comes to books, I read my books like there's no tomorrow, and I do it and I pass. And when I get to, nobody stresses me. I do what I have to do. We all do what we have to do. And yeah, simple.
So another thing with this discipline thing is that at different ages you change your operation. So there's a level of discipline we had. I think I used to beat more when they were like less than 10. I think I did more of the beating when they were less than 10, because maybe, and I have 2 daughters. Mulayo is the first one, Adioluwa is the second one. They are both girls. Greatest mistake I made, I thought they were the same. I thought that once you have girls, they will behave the same. Day and night. They are day and night in their behavior. The method of discipline that works for Mulayo doesn't work for Adioluwa. 2 different things. So
because Adioluwa is a crook.
I will tell her. So what I will do to Mulayo that will get her to behave, for Adioluwa, forget it. So, like, beating kind of worked for a little Mulayo to get her control.
Because I don't like
Adioluwa, forget it. Adioluwa, that beating did not work. She just looks at you like, man, it's not the worst you can do. So, quickly, you know that this is not going to work. So, Adioluwa it's what do I want to call it now?
It's about her persona. Her public
Adioluwa is like,
image.
she's like Barbie.
A princess. You can't
so she doesn't want that misrepresentation. So the moment she feels that the discipline would affect her reputation, Adioluwa will comply. But this Mulayo, bash her reputation, she won't even bother. You'll be talking to her back in those days, you'll just be eating like, what kind of human being are you? So for Mulayo, so you as parents, we need to study our kids, understand that no 2 ways, and it might work sometime, but in our case, no 2 ways of discipline work for them. So when Mulayo was much young, and Mulayo was quite mischievous when she was young.
Adventurous.
Mischievous. Mulayo could just disappear from the house. I'll be looking for her. I think there was one day in the night, I think it was about 7, 8 o'clock in the night, we were looking for Mulayo, and just about 3, 4 of us living in the house.
No, I know what happened. It was the day I caught the net.
Was it the day you caught the net?
I caught the net. Then the night that I said she was going to report me, and I knew I was going to get in trouble. So then I hid all around the house. I hid in the bathroom, under the bed, in the dining.
We're living in a 3-bed house then.
Avoiding everybody.
You go into the room, you won't see her. You come to her room, you won't see her. You go to the toilet, you won't see her. This girl was under the table, and the mother was hysterical. I remember the mother drove out. Mulaya. He was Mulaya. Found her under the dining table, with the. And when I got her, she too had a taste of a good life there. There was another time we were looking for her. There was an ice cream shop at the corner shop.
You gave me the money to buy.
Did I tell you to go yourself?
The person I was supposed to buy it, she was wasting time, so I just
about
left
4 or 5 years old. I can't remember. And Mulayo just went to this corner shop all alone to buy ice cream. And I remember I was looking for her. By the time I found her, guess what? She was hiding behind the car. She knew she was wrong. And I was just too angry to beat her. So the discipline that. So when they were much younger, I do the beating. So again, when it comes to beating, I like I said, I think I don't know when I said it. We must not lose control. I don't believe it's striking. I don't believe, oh, you are angry, just lash out. I think at that point you yourself have lost it. I think if you are going to administer discipline, you want to beat your child, I will tell them, Mulayo or Adioluwa, this is what you've done, this is what you've done, and for this reason, I'm going to beat you. I'm going to give you 6 strokes of the cane. Do you have anything to say? When they finish saying it, I'll beat them. They'll say that, oh, if I count up to this and you don't change, I will still beat you, and all that. So it was something that, because at the end of the day, like I said, it's about controlled behavior. When she grew much older, Mulayo now, and he, started going out, she has to start going out, going to some people's name that won't call, and some friends' name that won't call, and all that, because I can see some of them are here, I said, so as a father, you also want to control that, and I think that's where we need to also draw the line. Like I said, with discipline, you keep changing these things. So I remember the first time Mulayo had to go to the island to visit her friends, and she was going to stay for about a few days,
like 5 days.
Good. So to even come to that agreement, the way my head was working was very, very funny. And to make it worse, it was the week that some people sent some message on Instagram that they'll be kidnapping. I'm like, oh Jesus Christ! And at this point, my wife said, no. So I just began to think of it. At what level would you allow your kids to begin to exercise some level of freedom? I don't know if you saw this short video clip that this lady spoke about. She called it the camels are coming. So she said I think she was quoting the ruler of the Bible. So he said my grandfather rode a camel, my father rode was it or something like that. My father drove a car. Yeah. I'm driving no. So he said something like, I'm driving like an SUV. My son would drive like a Lamborghini or Ferrari or a Porsche. Then he said my grandson also will use something. Then my great grandson will ride a camel. And what we're trying to say is that there's a way we parents, because of some of the hardship or the tough life we think we've experienced, we try to shield our kids from those difficulties. And in thinking that we are shielding them, we are actually making life more difficult for them. Why? Because the strength of character, the ruggedness they need to experience by going through those similar rough things, we are protecting them from them. I went to a school called Command Secondary School, but that's the secondary school I went to. Bodebo means the place of bush. I grew up, my school for 6 years was in a jungle. You want to fetch water, it wasn't running in your hostel. You walk down to some borehole. Sometime before you get to the hostel, your seniors have taken your water. It was such a difficult experience. Mulayo school, oh God. Mulayo has air conditioner at school, Adioluwa school.
My secondary school had
air conditioner in the room. How many of you were in the room?
4.
Four.
Boys really 3. Mine
3,
was
4.
3.
They had all those things. They had food in the dining hall. They used to give you like nightcap, abi?
Yeah, nightcap.
They'll give
we
them,
fought for that nightcap.
They'll give them nightcap. They'll give them sausage. My school, oh Jesus. You could come to the dining table, 10 of you on the table. Before you get there, all the food is gone. That's the kind of school I went to, But she didn't go to that. So there was a way, I can see some people saying up command, So there was a way, incidentally, there was a way that thing helped. And I was like, if these people grew up into, and life is not really like that. I know some people are still in command. Maybe command is not the way it is, So it's important you expose them to those things. I remember For instance, when I was growing up in Lagos or from Ibadan, there are times I had to travel. We're living in Ibadan. We're living in Lagos. I was schooling in Ibadan. There are times I had to travel from Ibadan to Lagos on my own. If my parents didn't come and visit me on visiting day, it was okay. This one, if you don't visit me on visiting day,
you don't visit me on visiting day. You visit me when you feel like.
When you were in secondary school.
Okay, when you were in secondary school, you visit me on.
Can you imagine a university? She's asking this. My father never saw me once. He never saw the gate of my school from beginning to the end. She said that she was visiting at university. You know, my father never. You know, my mom came only once. She was traveling. She came back, and that was it. This was at university. Finally, I say I'm not visiting her. Can you imagine? So I will take Molwe. This girl doesn't know what Molwe is.
Like a
can you see? Molwe. I'll take Molwe with standing and all that. I remember the first day my wife took them in BRT. She just, it was a joyride. They were somewhere. They parked the car. Then they took BRT down to the stadium, and she just sent me the picture. That's how some of my kids were in BRT. I was panicking. Why would my children be BRT? And I had to tell myself, you better behave yourself. Don't shield these children from the reality of life. So they took BRT. Molayo now takes bus.
I had to learn how to take the bus. Very tough.
She learned how to take bus. No Molwe now. So there's no Molwe for her to take. She learned to take the bus. I remember the first time she was taking Uber. I followed her right there, snapped the Uber. I'm just like, man, you're going to kill yourself. Just let this thing be. But I'm not talking about irresponsible parenting now. We need to guide them, and gradually you ease up on those things, But the moment they break those things, I believe we must enforce those laws, and they must see. All right? What do you have to say? Yesterday she went out.
Yes, I went out.
Mulayo. So usually when you go out that long, and I said, Mulayo, if you are going to the island, when you are coming back to the mainland, you have the stretch of the island to deal with, you have third mainland to deal with and all that, and if you're not careful, you'll be in trouble. So there was a day I told her, leave the island. If you're leaving the island, leave at 4 o'clock. Once you begin to leave 4:30, that you're in trouble. She left late. Mulayo got home at what time?
That time I left around 5 and I got home 9 on the dot.
See?
That's late. Yeah. No, manageable time. At least I stepped into the house 9 on the dot. My feet touched the gate at 9.
So I told her that is the last time in a long time that will happen. You go there, 7 o'clock, you're in this house. Isn't that my dad used to do it to me? My dad would say, you can go, 7 o'clock, you are in this house. Now, when we don't make the lines of what do we call it now? The lines of demand clear, then you can't blame them for what they do. You can't blame them. So now, I think my son and your mom were out sometime last week or week. Yes. Mulayo was sending messages.
They came back
Where
to
are
the
you?
house at 11. How dare they? How dare they? Don't you know they have a curfew? How can they be out till 11? What are they doing? What are they doing?
And you know the reason why she did that? Because we normally don't stay out late. So we say, okay, Mulayo might come in slightly later and all that, but she'll be calling. So it's important you don't, whatever it is you don't want to do, show the example. And I don't know how to emphasize the fact that let us not deny our children of discipline. Discipline doesn't kill. If you do it very well. I know some of us are like modern day warriors when we beat that, so the beating thing, we just slash out and all that. Listen, Mulayo knows that talking, I just call, sit down, because I believe
I rather him beat me honestly than to talk to me, because it's so painful. I just like, if you beat me, it's better. I'll go and cry. I know that you speak down.
Do I speak down? I speak.
He will just come. It will be with Mulayo. I want to speak to you. He will not come to his study. He will not sit down. I was like, you're my daughter, right? I know that we have a good relationship, but what you did today, I do not like it, not one bit at all. You should just be smarter than that. And I know you, Mula, you're better than this. I'm just so disappointed. I'll just be like, oh my goodness, what have I done to this man now? Like, please, stop it.
But I didn't beat you and I didn't touch you. She will now start crying. Because and that's the irritating thing. She become like, what are you crying about? Did I touch you? If they beat you now, what are you, so. But I think my dad never used to beat us. My dad, I can count how many times my father beat me in his life. But when my father would talk to you like this, oh Jesus Christ, oh my Lord, you feel like dying. So I think, I'm sure we parents raise with reasonable kids. We can talk to them, they can understand, and I think when it comes to this discipline thing, I think for me, and I think it's important we also, I know the kind. I was talking to a parent today, and he said, listen, he said my son is like me, because my father, I know how my father was on me. Sometimes when we grow older, we make it look as if, as young people, we were the perfect ones. We're never wrong. We always did everything right and all that. But the moment you understand that, you were a bit. I know some of the things I did when I was young. I know some of the things, and I know I was kind of really naughty. So my father didn't beat me, but my mother was compensated for the beating. My mother did the beating very, very well. Then she would beat you, then report you to my dad, and just like the kind of woman is this. But it's important the discipline thing, we do not let it slide. Particularly in this day and age where, I remember there was a school, I won't call the name of the school. There was a school Malaya was in at some point, primary school, yeah. We had to take out that school. I went to see her in school one of those days, and I saw this boy really shouting at his teacher. I'm like, don't touch me. I'm like, hey. And the teacher could not beat him. I asked the teacher, he said, no, it's a policy. I said, when I take them to school, the mother would not agree. I said, beat my child. I'm not saying kill them, but because you see, let me tell you what I think about, and I tell them this. I said, one of the things I think about my life is this. So Mulao grows up, or Adilua grows up, and someone now calls me and say, I interacted with Mulayo or Adilua. Are they your children? How come they are this disgusting, murderers and all that? I said, I must never hear that in my life. I must never hear that in my life. So everything, it's not about that. It's just that you raise your kids to be the best version of themselves, to be the best version they can put in the society, so that when they get there themselves, they are very, very proud of themselves. And the good thing is this. So when Mulayo, she gets some little accolades now. She's, when she gets the accolade and asks her, how do you feel? She feels very, very good. She's doing some holiday job now. So was it yesterday you brought it to me? Yesterday night she's the social media. You're not manager now. She's just handling the social media for one company. So she had to put some stuff up yesterday night. So she came to show me, and I saw her boss, and the boss was very, see her staff. She was really, really very, very cool with herself, because again, it's good that she's doing the job and she's doing it well, and the person she's working with, at least so far so good, appreciates it. And I like the fact that it's the fact that she's coming from a home that some form of training has been put in to let her come up like that. The same thing with Adeolua. When Adeolua told me that she was school mother or something,
she was school mother.
And the person I knew the person's son, and the person spoke about how Adeolua handles her. So I'm like, oh, Adeolua, because Adeolua doesn't interact too much like that. But you see, when I see her with children, oh God, whether it's in church or anything, when Adeolua is with those kids, they all behave themselves. Adeolua is like Mommy Nanima, she knows how to get everybody in order, and it's the fact that she knows that the kind of home she comes from, some things like I said, Adeolua back in those days, Adeolua had a temper, You talk to her, she just slammed doors, bang, 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 or she go and lock herself up in the toilets.
She not scattered you, she threw everything at the door.
And I remember when Adeolua is angry, she'll be crying. She'll cry. So I say, Adeolua, breathe in. I will sing song, because again, it's her personality. But you can excuse it and explain the way. But you see, at some point they will not be under our direct influence. So we must prepare them for the real world. So I said, you can't do this. You can't do this. Maybe somebody today might be listening to you in the house, but somebody out there might not just tolerate it. So you're angry, breathe. When you breathe, I'll tell her. So I sing the song, Kulu temper. So breathe. So she breathes. If you ask her, she breathe. Okay, good. Explain your point. Then she explain. And over the years, she's got the better grip of it. There was a time that Adeolua was so angry. And she locked herself up. I think we have some questions.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Mulaya.
So asks, for Nigerians in diaspora where beating is not acceptable, how would you advise parents to discipline their children from a very young age? Well, I'm studying psychology, and in my 200 level, I think we talked about developmental psychology. So we talked about kids, young adults, and adults. So there's something called conditioning. So you basically condition your child the way you want to. You have positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement. Reinforcement is just increasing a behavior you like. So the stick and carrot method, you give them something they like or give them a form of punishment. You don't necessarily have to beat. For example, you need your child to lay their bed. Instead of beating them, like, I'll seize your iPad for 1 hour unless you lay your bed. Or if you don't lay your bed, you are not going to play football with your friends for 2 days. Like, you can give them other options, not necessarily beating, because children are very intelligent. If you explain to them what is going on, they will surely listen to you. So if, okay, you can say, if you clean your room, I'll give you chocolate, I'll take you out for ice cream, or you basically motivate them, encourage them to do work. And you can also make it fun, put on music, put on a show, or do a fun activity together, turn it into a treasure hunt. Children just like to play. So as long as the activity is fun and engaging and not seen as a punishment, they would obviously listen to you. So you just need to understand your child. What does your child like? What don't they like? So you can use that to encourage behavior. I think so.
Like I said, the beating thing, I think Mulao said, she said she can count on her hand, and I think I need to increase that just to
You can't beat me again, and you know.
You know, the beating, I think in their entire life, but except when I don't know if I've beaten them up to 5 times in their entire life. I don't think so. And the beating, like I said, it's very controlled. You're not beating out of losing your cool and all that. So in wherever you are, in whatever climb you are, I think beating should not be your default setting. I think reasoning together should be your default setting. I think conditional, what do you call it?
Reinforcement.
Story. We are paying the school fees. So if you condition them with words, then they will do well. But I think the important thing is this: they must understand that for good behavior there are rewards, and for bad behavior there are consequences. There's a repercussion. You know, so but the moment you don't do that, and so the child is doing something wrong and you don't say anything, then one day the child does something wrong and you lash out, you are confusing the child. Why? Because the child has been doing something wrong and you never did it. So particularly, I don't know how it is in the West, for those of us who are Africans, you know, particularly Nigerians. So, and this is how we begin to condition children not to take responsibility for their action. So your child is doing something, then maybe the child falls down or bumps into a table, and the child begins to cry, and the child did that intentionally, maybe even warned the child. Then what do? Some people say, oh, see this table, wrong, naughty table, you did this to my son, did this to my child. I said, no, don't beat the table. Tell the child you shouldn't have done that. Because the moment you are saying, oh, see the floor, see the table, oh, naughty table, you made my child fall down, you are not letting the child take responsibility for that action. So tell the child, next time you don't do this. You know, so like when we're young, you go and touch, back in those days we had these things, the lantern, you know the lanterns.
Yes, I've seen a lantern.
But you didn't grow up with lantern like that.
But I saw a lantern with
grandma. So you have these lantern things, and you know they are hot. Then they'll be telling you, Jojo, don't go and touch it. Sometimes your parents will leave you to touch it. When it touches it, guess what? They don't need to tell you again. You will not go there again. You know. So I'm not saying that you leave them to that, but you see, we must understand clearly. We must let them understand that for actions, good actions, there are rewards. Inaction, there are consequences. Mola came back from the office today. So the moment she came in, you know, myself and her mom were having a meal on the table. She came in, cleaned up, blah blah. I was even feeling for her because she just came back from the office. I thought she would rest again and all that. It's either because you know that I want to go and rest, don't come and send me anywhere. But you see, let them understand. And you see, and what I say is this: there is nothing they do that I have not done. I wash plates, I clean out this and all that and everything. So you shouldn't let them think of discipline as punishment. You shouldn't let them think of, okay, punishment. Question.
Do you really think we can still handle our children the way we were handled while growing up? considering the way things are changing globally?
The way you can't answer that question.
I can't answer because I personally don't support the way most adults were brought up.
How were we brought up?
I think you guys like to idolize suffering. Like, oh wow, they beat me. I traveled 50 kilometers to go to school. Okay, invest in suffering. It doesn't matter. You grew up so you could have a better life. So I feel like you should also change the world. The thing about human beings, you should always learn to adapt. Not all the time you stick to your old ways. Learn to self-develop, learn to grow. Just adapt to your situation. I'm not saying that you can't administer some of the like training and discipline that was administered to you, but there should be a limit to it. Like, you should never beat your child with a wire or a hanger. Like, they've never beaten me with a wire in my life. So I don't think things like that are necessary. So I just think that, you know, kids are also human beings. Like, we have brains, we can reason. Like, you can literally just explain to a child, do not do this. This is bad. I don't think you should do this. Explaining is better than lashing out at them. But you can say your own view, Sha. That's my view.
So I think the principles should be the same, the good ones, but how we practice it has to be different. Why? It's a different world entirely. It's a different world completely. The realities are different. The environment is different. They are a more vocal generation. They're a more vocal generation. So I tell people that I studied engineering. What I knew in my final year engineering, even graduates, my daughter in Form 2, Form 3, what they call this thing? Year 9. She knew much more than I knew. So it's a whole different world. The things, so Gen Z particularly, she's a Gen Z. They grew up with internet. Mulal cannot imagine. She used to ask me, how did you live without telephone? How did you live without internet? That's how we lived. You know, some of us had to go to places to phone with Nitel. You know what they call Nitel?
Is that not like old Airtel or something?
See yourself. You know, we had to go to Nitel to phone. We had to do this. There was a time Mulal doesn't even use emails. You use emails.
I use my emails for school.
So and I remember how emails were for us. So it's a different generation entirely. It's a different space entirely. But no matter the generation, the values of respect, the values of hard work, the dignity of labor, and all those things, how we practice it might be different, but those values must be the same. Like I said, that I will never forget that thing. That's, you know, when the cameras are coming. I went to Ibadan 2 years ago. I went to Ibadan 3 years ago after COVID. And I had to stay in a hotel, for those of us who know Ibadan very well, somewhere in Bodija. When I was growing up in Ibadan, Bodija was where the richest of the rich in Ibadan lived. You know, so, and I stayed in Bodija. I stayed in a hotel in Bodija for about 2-3 days. So when I wake up in the morning, I go out for my exercise, you know, and I go around Bodija, walking around Bodija, you know, and all that. And when I looked around Bodija, all those houses were going for sale. And they were going for sale at very obnoxious price. And I went and asked, oh, the child has left the country, or the child could not maintain the house, and this and that and that and that and that. Because the strength of character that the parents had, that they grew, because the kind of discipline they had, some way, somehow, in trying to raise their kids that, oh, like Mulal said, I don't want them to suffer the way we suffered. You deny them of that strength that they need to be able to push things to the next level. I understand that a chick, when the chicken lays the egg, and the chick wants to come out of the shell, that he uses his leg to break the shell, and that if you try to break the shell for the chick, what you do is that you cripple the chick, the leg, because it's the strength that he uses to break the shell that brings strength to the legs. So we must creatively find ways of allowing our children to experience these things in life. That you must really lead them to experience those things. So when Mulal was going to start taking buses, and that was just last year, wasn't it? Last year. She complained, oh, wicked father, blah, 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 blah. No, believe me, I had my own concerns too, but she did it. She didn't die. She even enjoyed it. She went out, she would say, I said, where you say Oroshoki? I said, not Oroshoki, it's Oroshoki. She didn't know all those places. But now in going through the buses, she knows it. She knows the different bus stops. She knows those things and all that. So I think it's important we expose them. And another thing is we can't deny the fact that society is in different layers. We have different classes in society. So if Mullah was the daughter of the richest man in Nigeria or richest man in Africa, there are some things that might just not come into our reality. But even in that space, hard work, responsibility, and all those things at that level. So wherever you are, in whatever state of life you are, these values must be taught. These values must be exemplified, and when they are kept, they should be rewarded. When they are not kept, they should be
addressed.
Is the word addressed? Is the word addressed? Is the word addressed? Punished. They should be punished. But one of the things I think so let me be careful now. If Mullah does something wrong, will you come and tell me?
Yes.
I don't know about it.
It depends. It depends on what it is. When I mess up, I usually tell my dad instead of my mom because my mom is very mean.
How do you know she's hearing
I
this?
don't say I love you, but so what I usually tell, what I actually do, when I do something wrong, I will meet my dad. Okay, because I know one thing about my dad. He, like I said, he talks to me. He lets me express myself, and then from then on, we don't focus on what has been done. We focus on what can be done after. Like, you don't focus on your bad deed. You focus on what you can do going forward. And that's what I really appreciate about him.
So with this discipline thing, because the truth is this, at some point, and for those of us who think, oh, we are Christians, our children are Christian, all that, believe me, whether Christian or not, you will do something wrong. It's just part of life. But we must set up our space, our home space, that something goes wrong, come home. You want to come home and talk about it. Something goes well, you want to come home and talk about it. Knowing that it will be addressed. But knowing that even in the addressing of the issue, we can separate the issue from the person. Because you see, one of the challenges again we have, I've had people say that if I come second, what my father would do, what my mother would do. I remember we had a driver when we were young, and we were going home, and the daughter was coming with the car, and I think she came second or something. The way he slapped her in the car, she pulled the whatever they call the handle. She pulled the handle, and the door opened, and she just swept that, but she pulled it back again because and I remember he says that, is it not somebody's child that came first?
Do they have two heads?
So the moment you condition your children with this zero-sum mentality, where they are under the pressure to perform, then you've also created a time bomb that will go off at some point. Because so what will happen is that they'll be pretending your presence, and at some point they just won't be able to keep up with this whole thing again. I think we had some guests on Tuesday, and we're talking about, she was talking about the pressure of pastor's daughter, that pastor's this, pastor's daughter, and the pressure of pastor's daughter, I can say, is not from me. Is it from me?
It's not from me. It's from other people.
Not from me, because one of the things I try to tell, whether it's my wife or my kids, that don't let anybody disturb you. The same expectation that God has from a pastor or pastor's daughter is what he has from everybody. So I want you to live your life to be the best version of yourself. Do this and don't let anybody put. So don't and we shouldn't. I won't tell them to do this. Oh, don't you know you are the child of this? You have to. No. Let them see the need to do something and the reward for themselves. When they see it, So my second daughter to Adeoluwa is super smart. But Adeoluwa, how can I describe Adeoluwa? Adeoluwa doesn't
She's
like...
her own person. She works on her own thing.
Adeoluwa was in primary school. And in primary school, Adeoluwa just said she did not feel like doing exams. And my daughter just closed the exam thing and she just left. She said she didn't want to do exams. I was leaving, but couldn't do anything. I remember another day they called me, the head teacher called me and said, oh, they wanted to see me. So they called me to the office of the head teacher. That she now said, oh, Adeoluwa's teacher said she could not read. I think she was in primary 3 or primary 4. I said, Adeoluwa can't read. Which Adeoluwa? Adeoluwa reads 7, 6, wimpy, what's that? She reads, so I'm like, Adeoluwa can't read. So I said, please call her. So when they called her to the office of the head teacher, I was there. I didn't even say, oh, Adeoluwa can't read. I just said, how are you doing? So I said, Adeoluwa, can you read that for me? She read it. Adeoluwa, can you read that thing? I read it. So the head teacher was looking at me and she left. So I said, this is the way Adeoluwa works. If you force her, she just locks down. If you force her, she locks down. But you need to just have this, oh, why can't you do this? Why do you want to do this? But now that she's grown up, she's changed all those things, and Adeoluwa, she's more digital than Molayo. Adeoluwa, back in those days when we were doing, what's that thing they were doing online?
Zoom class.
Oh, Jesus Christ. So Adeoluwa will stay in my study because she had to set up a laptop and all those things. Adeoluwa will be on one, maybe is it on Netflix on some side?
Netflix, YouTube, and a Zoom class.
But you see, I was watching her one day and the teacher called out Adeoluwa and they asked her the question and she answered. So I said to her, I sat her down. So instead of shouting, Adeoluwa, it's not going to work. And that's why I said, parenting must be active. When it comes to digital and all that, you must understand the child. So I said, Adeoluwa, you know what? If you don't read and you are still getting this kind of grades, don't you think if you read, you just be outstanding, And in fact, at that point, I said they should make her repeat because I was like, when I saw Adeoluwa's results in Fordham or something, I called the school. I said, did you write the exam for her or something like that? So, and it's just about understanding the way we administer discipline. That they are, even if they are twins, identical twins, understand that the same method might not work for both of them. We need to study them. It's about active parenting. It's about knowing your child. It's about being friends with your children so that they don't. This one swindles me a lot. She still swindled me yesterday. And
you saved me from embarrassment.
Okay. And so that you don't let them use their systematic style to swindle you. Do we have any other question now?
No, I don't think I have any questions anymore. Okay,
good. So the most important thing, if there's anything I want us to get beyond this, is that number one, discipline is not a bad thing. It's not a bad word. Discipline, don't think of discipline and punishment. That's number one. Number two, for those who are concerned that, oh, when you are this free with your child and your child is this free with you, they won't respect you. That's not our reality. That's all I can say. It's not our reality. My children respect me. I know my children respect me. In fact, who do you respect more than me?
God.
I used to say I'm like the fourth member of the Trinity, So I've seen, I won't say what I see. I see Molayo's diary sometimes. I see what she writes about me,
Which diary?
The thing you write in that your distinct book. So, but so what? She likes to introduce me on because she used to be using me to post, but it's alright. But discipline is about getting the best out of your children, and it starts with you. Was it yesterday or today you came to me that you need to sleep or rest? Was it yesterday or today?
It was today.
I was tired. My body needed to rest. So she gave me, And one of the things I tell them that, listen, I'm not writing an exam for anybody. Nobody can punish me at this stage. So if I'm still doing this at this stage, I think you guys can still push yourself and all that. So let the standards for discipline be clear. You that are setting the standards, don't be guilty. Another thing is this, Mula, if I do something wrong, what do I do?
You apologize.
Apologize. You apologize. My dad, I don't know whether it's a good example. My dad used to say that when they were young, and his dad, which is my grandfather, farts publicly, what they say is sorry. He said, so by that, I said that, so, and that's how free way I said to my dad back there, I said, you can't try that here, So with these ones, they're not gonna, So these ones, they just, But believe me, you can be friends with your kids and still firm. That you are firm does not mean you cannot be friends. So you can be friends and you can be firm. They can be free with you, and you can still have this thing. And for me, the most important thing is so that the times when things go wrong, which from time to time it will go wrong, there's a place for them to come to, and they know that the issue is dealt with does not mean I'm not accepted. That the issue is addressed does not communicate a what's it called now, a dislike for my person or this, and I think that's very, very important, because the kind of children we are dealing with now, what did that thing called? Mental health.
Yeah.
Any small thing now, say my mental health, my mental space. When I was growing up,
mental health is important.
I'm not saying that important. When I was growing up, I don't know whether maybe mental health is a new importation, or we just didn't know better then. We don't know any better. So in this day and age where the mental space, I just want to keep my space. I don't want, where all this is important. We just need to ensure that home is a safe space for our children to come to. Home is a safe space for children, for parents, for everybody, so that no matter what happens, good, come on, bad, come on. There's a story of the prodigal son in the Bible. The prodigal son. When he messed up, and he really did mess up, he felt he could go back home. He could go back home, and he did go back home. And what he felt was that his father would demote him. But guess what? If you read the story very well, I think it's in Luke 15. When he went back home, the father even didn't address the issue. Why? In coming home, he had understood he had done wrong. So another thing is that don't be happy, Yoruba will call it terumoro. Be talking. Nag. Why nag?
No.
Do you nag?
I don't nag, I explain.
So thank you very much for your time. It's almost 9 o'clock. It's like 3 minutes to 9 here. So I don't know if Mula, do you have any other question?
No other questions.
So thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
I had some questions earlier this evening. So sometime soon I'll be calling some fathers. I've already spoken to them that we'll have this session together to talk about dads, and we won't talk about dads and domestic work.
You know my dad cooks for me sometimes. Not cooks, he only knows how to fry egg.
What do you mean?
That you only know how to fry egg. So let's stop lying. The one knows.
That I only know how to fry egg.
Okay, he knows how to make concoctions and call them food.
So we'll talk about all these things. We'll talk about how we can get dads to be more active within the home space. Whether it's food, whether it's the microwave. Sorry, that's it. What's that thing? Washing machine.
Yeah, I know what I told you today, right?
Yes, that washing machine thing. I was the last person in this house to know how to use washing machine. I think I just get to was it last year or this year? I didn't just understand that thing, but God has given me victory. So once again, thank you very much everybody for your time. We are grateful to you. So if you have questions again, please keep them coming. God bless you. God bless you. Give you good homes, give you good families, and dads. You are the ones I'm actually after. I'm actually after the men. So please let's share with the dads. And dads, very soon we'll get together. Thank you very much. God bless you. Lovely night rest in Jesus' name.
See you next time. Bye.
Bye.